Hi there, everybody, and welcome to this week's Property AI Report. I'm Mal McCallion, and I am here to bring you all the news and insights from this week's property and technology events. We've got things all about deep research, so much deep research. It's bound to have the portal sweating. We've got some information about Elon Musk and his battle with OpenAI. And we're going to dive a little bit deeper into China and all the noise coming from there with regard to their AI models, whether they are really ahead or coming close to matching the US, and what potentially that might mean for all of us going forwards as well. Alongside that, of course, we have our usual tool of the week and plenty in our quick fire round too. So let us get stuck into it right away with this week's top 3 news stories. All right, so wanted to start with information all about deep research. Now, deep research is a descriptive term, obviously, that kind of gives an insight into how complex any particular task or bit of information is. And deep research has actually become the product name also for 3 different products from 3 different companies. So Google went first, so November time last year, with its deep research. Then OpenAI launched deep research about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And now today we have Perplexity also launching, guess what, deep research. And all of them are what is known as reasoning models. So the idea with these are that you can give it a task, an end goal, an outcome that you want it to deliver, and it will go away, have a little mosey around all of the information ever on the internet, and bring you back a very polished and detailed report, as if it was done by a very intelligent intern or colleague that essentially answers your question. Now, there are obviously some big research topics you can do with this. I imagine that if one was at university or studying for exams, then you could certainly get it to answer a lot of the serious questions that come up in those studies. But here at the Property AI Report, we want to use it for something far more basic, which is property search, basically. So we actually have tried these out on various search terms looking for properties and seeing if this is really going to replace property portals. All right, so this is the thesis, if you will, for our kind of first story here is actually, if we put in a search, for example, properties that are on the coast, that have a sea view, that are 30 minutes away from Chichester Station, that have a nice garden and have a parking space as well. All right, so what we're looking for is some attributes that aren't in the normal search functionality of any of the portals and indeed any other websites, but are likely to be high on the list of buyers if you were to say to them, what's your dream home? So the jumping off point, it isn't as it is right now, which is you actually having to go and put your filters into a property website, but instead it's just like, what's your dream? Where do you want to end up? What does that property look like? So these deep research will go away and they will scour the internet and they will find properties that fulfill this criteria. All right, we have been, as I say, playing around with these. We've paid for these significant uplifts. So, for example, OpenAI's is $200 to get this working. So I'm not suggesting right now that this is going to go mainstream or be something that people do instead of going to the top portals just yet. However, as we've seen today with Perplexity's launch of Deep Research, which is free, it will be very fast, very soon, that all of these, this amazing reasoning, these models, that what's known as agentic AI, where essentially AI has its own agency to go and find information out for you. It will go away and it does go and look at, yes, the property portal. So it will look at Rightmove, but it will also look at, interestingly, Zoopla and On the Market, and indeed other property portals such as Jitty if there are properties there as well. So the first thing to mention is that actually this means that as it builds through, you're not necessarily going to have to be on all of these. You could potentially choose one. But more than that, what it goes off and does is it finds properties from your own website. So down in that on the south coast of England, you've got the likes of Henry Adams, and you've got a bunch of others that this actually goes onto their websites and searches for properties that fulfill this criteria. So in a few cases, it found properties that were on both Henry Adams and, for example, on the market, or that there's Bailey's down there and in East Wittering, and it's found them on their site, and so on. So it's really quite blind in the nicest possible way in terms of where it searches. But it does not prejudice any particular location for finding this information. What it does do is it does tell you when it's doing its searches, and it actually chats to itself and says, oh, I'm looking over here and I found this, but actually that website's really quite difficult. So I'm going to go to one of the other websites and I can't quite see whether it's got all of these attributes. So I'm going to go and do something else and blah. And it just keeps chatting away to itself. And you can see during that logical thinking, actually, that some of the websites, some of the agent websites aren't good enough in terms of it is not able to access them quickly enough to be able to find out this information. Secondarily, some of them don't have enough information. So not every attribute is visible on there, and therefore it can ignore some properties. But when it returns the search results, it will return search results from Rightmove, from Zoopla, from On the Market, from these estate agent websites. Even it will go on to articles. So we got one back that was for that was about a news story about a particular property that had these attributes, and it found that as well. So it's a really interesting moment, I think, in terms of how this is going to develop and how it has the potential to change what we consider to be property search, because it's now going to be that aggregation, which was always the promise of property portals. And as you may know, I've been involved in property portals and love them dearly. Their purpose was to bring convenience to people so that they could find properties and send leads and all that sort of stuff relatively straightforwardly. If it is now the case, but one of the limitations of portals was that you had to put in very strict filters. So you could only put in 3-bedroom properties with a particular price range in a particular location and a keyword perhaps. And that was pretty much it. Now you can essentially just articulate whatever it is that you really want, put that into a deep research engine, and that will bring you back these properties that are your dream properties, wherever they may sit, wherever they may live. So I think it's a real moment in time and something that I think we're going to explore more and more over the coming weeks and months. It is imperfect. It doesn't bring back, when I'm looking at it, I'm to work out whether it's got absolutely everything. I don't think that every search has every single property that fulfills that criteria coming back necessarily right now. However, as we always say on the Property AI report, this is as bad as it's ever going to be. All right, it is going to get so much better from here. And that will necessarily include completeness. So there will necessarily be a completeness of listings discovered by these deep research engines platforms that will essentially negate the need to go around loads of different property portals and find these things. They will be able to let you search for really particular attributes that you care about, and the cost of these things will be infinitesimally small, because competition is going to try, and these big platforms are going to try and win your business and win the eyeballs of the consumer by being better, faster, cheaper than anybody else out there. And that race is already being joined. As I say, with Google, OpenAI and Perplexity already got their deep researches out. Claude, so Anthropic, Claude from Anthropic made noises last Friday that theirs is coming soon. It's going to be a hybrid where you don't have to choose whether you want deep research or a generative response. It will work out from the context of your question what you are really looking for, and that's going to be another leap forward. So everything is pointing towards relentless optimization and improvement. And the things that means for agents is much of it very good, because what it means is that wherever your properties are, they have the potential to be discovered, provided that your website is really easy to find and easy to read, that the data that is in there is complete, comprehensive, it's got all the attributes and again is something that these AIs can go and find very straightforwardly. And if you are paying for a vast swathe of different property portal kind of extensions and premium properties and things like that, then there is going to be less need for that, because people in the end, and again, this is early stages, but relatively quickly, people are going to be so used to talking to AI and asking them what, I don't know, what to go and see at the cinema, or what's a great holiday to go on that's under 1,000 or something like that. Then they're also going to start asking what's the best property for me to live in. And it will know things about you, me, that mean that, yes, okay, we've got 3 kids and this is our budget, etc. And it will start to actually anticipate searches as well. So that's a little bit further down the line. For now, critical. Have a look and think about your website. Make sure that is AI ready. Have a look at the property data that you put up on websites and make sure that is as good as it can be. And then just have a review of your spending on the portals and just work out whether actually you need to consider all of the additional marketing spend that you're making when some very smart AIs are going to come along and potentially allow you to deliver results to your vendors much more straightforwardly. The final thing that I would always suggest you do is stop talking about being on Rightmove or any particular property portal, because I do think that there may come a time where vendors don't need to hear that every single time. And you can say, yeah, of course, if they ask, yeah, I'm on Rightmove or whatever, or I'm on Zoopla, but you don't necessarily have to push it. And actually telling them that you're looking at AI and various other things, I think is going to have far more impact. Alrighty, so that is where we are with the portals, with deep research and AI. Just wanted to dip into another couple of big stories. One of the things that caught my eye this week was around 3D printing of homes. All right, so again, we're massively obsessed here with both property and technology. So there is a US provider of printed homes. Okay, so actually 3D printed material for actual homes based over in the States. It's raised $56 million in funding, and it's on a valuation of something like 2 billion right now. So it's called Icon, ICON, and it is developing, so you can use this extra money to develop its line of multi-story 3D printers so it can begin putting robotic technology into the hands of builders. All right, so very exciting. 3D printing technology has been around for a little while. It hasn't quite got to the cut through in terms of people using it. We still build houses pretty much the same way as we have always built houses. But I think that this is an indicator of that technology is starting now to move towards where where we will be able to think differently about how homes are built. And particularly if you look at in the UK, we've got this commitment from the Labour government over the next 5 years to build 1.5 million properties, then and the resource, and do we have the right number of people to be able to do that, workers, builders to be able to do that, then I think technology is going to start to be looked at and perhaps this might be a really interesting way of this particular challenge being started to be solved. So that's 3D printing of homes. Very exciting. Probably going to take a little while, but we'll come around as soon as we start to hear any further developments on that. All right, wanted to dip into China and just have a quick chat about how that country is shaking things up in the AI and technology space. So many of you will have heard of DeepSeek, which is a Chinese reasoning model. So we spoke about deep research for both Google and OpenAI, and also now Perplexity. DeepSeek is a reasoning model from China that is supposedly as good as certainly the OpenAI one, but is also free and open source. So actually you can use it right now to basically answer any kind of deep research questions that you want. Now, there are concerns obviously around this, that actually if you put any searches into DeepSeek, then essentially that is going back to Xi Jinping, the premier of China, and is being used for some nefarious purposes over there. There's concern around the electric car manufacturer, and all of these things that are coming out of China that are being, and the obsession with TikTok over in the States, and whether that's corrupting our children's brains and also giving too much data to the Chinese about what Americans in the West are doing or thinking. And all of this is coming to a bit of a head, I think, right now. And obviously there's a lot of pressure on over on Taiwan. Taiwan is where most of the semiconductors that are used in all of these AI models are made. TSMC, sorry, is the company that makes all of the chips for the likes of Nvidia and others. There is concern about the threat that China is making to Taiwan. It is doing a lot of military procedures up and down the South China Sea, and basically threatening anybody who suggests that Taiwan is not part of this one China policy. Donald Trump's US today, actually, 17th of February, has removed a line in their China policy that acknowledges that Taiwan is part of China, and that has caused much anger over at China as well. So there's lots going on, lots of political dimensions to this as well. From the technological side, I think that China is proving itself very adept at essentially mimicking what the most cutting edge technology is over in the States. Now, I think it's going to plateau a little bit. The DeepSeek model that was created does seem to have been using some of these H100 chips, so some of the most advanced chips, the more advanced chips from NVIDIA that have since had an export ban slapped on them by the previous US administration, Biden's. So they're likely to struggle a little bit more going forwards to keep pace. However, necessity being the mother of invention, they have managed to find ways to really speed up things like inference, so how it calculates answers to questions, etc. And those gains in process, I think, will continue, and those are going to be things that people will keep an eye on very carefully. As far as how this impacts us and what we do, I have to say that I tend to shy away from using the Chinese models. Yes, I understand that they are potentially cheaper and in some ways as good. I think that they'll start to slow down a little bit. I think that as far as your own data and keeping it safe and understanding as a business, as most of us run businesses, I don't feel entirely comfortable putting my data in anywhere that isn't covered by a lot of the sort of GDPR rules and the data security that we have here. As far as its ability to make a difference to how America builds its AI, I think that it's going to be very effective on that as well. It's helping America to think as well laterally about how to speed up its own process and procedures. So the competition is good for the frontier models, because it's keeping them. Deep research, for example, is come much faster than perhaps it would otherwise, and all of these other models are competing hard. I think it's good to have competition. I think we need to be mindful of putting our own data into these Chinese models, and I do think that it's going to plateau a little bit as well. So some of their developments are going to start to tail off as America powers ahead. Yes, things to keep an eye on. We'll obviously return to this as things change in the future, but that for now completes our three main topics, and we're going to go very quickly through our quick fire round. All right, so in the quick fire round, one of the things to focus on is GPT-5. So Sam Altman, who is the chief exec of OpenAI that make the ChatGPT models, he was the one that launched ChatGPT 3.5 back in November 2022, which has basically kicked off this whole obsession of the last 2.5 years with AI and generative AI particularly. He launched ChatGPT 4 in April 2023, and we have pretty much been waiting for ChatGPT 5 ever since. Now, he says that is coming in the next few months. There's likely to be a 4.5 before then, which should be another little step up. But yes, GPT-5 is now being openly talked about by OpenAI as coming. And I think that's going to be huge. He says it's going to be the last model that is solely focused on generative AI, and soon he's going to merge all of his models together, the reasoning models and the deep research and all that sort of stuff coming in together, perhaps in GPT-6. But GPT-5 coming this year and is going to be very powerful, I'm sure. Another story just on OpenAI, they have overtaken X/Twitter in terms of consumer visits per month. So whilst Google and YouTube, Facebook and others are ahead, OpenAI is now ahead of Elon Musk's X, which will no doubt delight Mr. Musk, who is also in the middle of a legal wrangle with OpenAI, where he's suing them for breach of their original charitable aims. But also at the same time, again announced in the last couple of weeks, he has made an offer to buy OpenAI for $97.34 billion, which was roundly rejected last Friday by the OpenAI board. So there's lots of personality in here. Musk doesn't like Sam Altman, but also there is competition because essentially Musk now has XAI, which he also wants to get as much money into as possible and to be able to capture the eyeballs of those that are keen on AIs. Yes, those things are all happening at the same time. But I think that the thing that's going to sting most for Elon is the fact that Sam's OpenAI ChatGPT has overtaken his visitor numbers on a month-by-month basis. So that's going to sting. A couple more bits. We've got Scarlett Johansson again warning of the dangers of AI. So again, you may remember that she was very involved in a film. She started a film as the voice of AI back in, I think it was 2013, something like that. It was called Her. And then OpenAI tried to use her voice, wanted to use her voice on their ChatGPT 4.0 model. She said no, but then they created a voice that sounded suspiciously similar to hers. She threatened to sue. They then changed the voice and got rid of the voice. But now there's been a very specific story about her warning against the imminent dangers of AI, when a deep fake video of her and other prominent Jewish celebrities went viral, basically going against the recent anti-Semitic remarks from Kanye West, or Ye, as I think we now need to call him. So it was a lot of AI deep fake data put into that, and basically all of them slamming Kanye, but actually it wasn't true. And she hadn't said these things. Others involved were David Schwimmer, who's Ross from Friends, Seinfeld, Drake, Adam Sandler, Steven Spielberg, Mila Kunis, and others. Again, really interesting to see how artists are taking this, even videos, AI videos that purport to be on the more positive side in terms of slamming people who are being anti-Semitic. These are still being called out and being said to be to the detriment of all of these people. Again, this I'm sure is not going to be the last story like this, but going forwards, we will see how the reaction to more and more of these deepfake videos as they come to pass. Next up in our quickfire round, a story all about how ChatGPT may not be as power hungry as once assumed. So this is the news that essentially asking a query or a few queries of ChatGPT might be just like boiling your kettle, essentially. So whereas we've heard a lot about the negative nature of powering all of these AI queries, actually, if it turns out that essentially it's just like lots of people putting the kettle on, then it's not going to be as bad as one might think. Obviously, it's going to take more power, and obviously it is going to be something that, as it is increasingly used, is going to require additional power to come on stream. However, there's been a lot of talk, a lot of research done on particularly solar and wind, and how solar is being implemented in so many countries right now that actually it's going to shoulder a lot of the burden. Yes, there's going to be additional nuclear power plants turned up as well, but a lot of the energy is going to be from renewables too. Yeah, I think obviously we have to be mindful of what the impact of all of this on our energy requirements are, and obviously from a climate perspective too. But there is much to be positive about as well, I think, around AI's potential for helping us to solve some of these climate issues that we've got as well. I think overall, on balance, it's a net positive, but yes, it's going to be interesting to see just how much more power we are able to get to power some of these new AI models. Final quick fire story is about animals. Yes, so researchers are training AI to interpret animal emotions to actually see whether your dog is in pain. So this obviously intended to help vets and so on with understanding a bit more about how animals are communicating with us and telling us that they are sad or sore. And it runs alongside a rather long running project to understand what animals are saying, so what their noises make. And they're looking at various different animals, from barking and meowing to grunting and so on, to see if we can find out what the animals are trying to say to us. And yes, that's all of this because again, AI can pick up repetitive sounds. It can understand a bit more about what reactions lead to which particular emotions from animals and so on. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out if we can finally communicate with the animals and whether AI can help us get there too. All right, that's our quick fire round. Next is our weekly tool of the week. So this week's tool of the week is from ByteDance, which we spoke earlier on about China. This is very much a Chinese model. It's called OmniHuman, just to terrify us all a little bit more. And essentially, it just turns a single photo into a moving, talking person. All right, so really cutting edge. It hasn't actually been released to the public as yet because there's so much concern around the sort of deep fakery and things like that. But essentially, you can literally create an AI image and then put that into this particular model, and it will then create a movie of that. Now, it's going to be released pretty soon, and they've obviously trying to put some guardrails in it. But it is a huge leap forward in terms of realism of these videos, and is, again, if you think about how easy it's going to be to create videos going forwards, whether that is of teams or people doing voiceovers or property videos to people doing area videos of the local area, the local community, and so on. So I think there's going to be a lot that we can potentially take from this. It's called, as I say, OmniHuman from ByteDance, and it's going to be with us very soon. And that is our tool of the week. All right, that's all we have time for this week on the Property AI Report. Thank you so much for being with us. We'll be back again next week with even more property AI technology news. Until then, have a great week, and I will catch up with you. All the best. Take care. Bye-bye.